Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live, and let's crack open the cosmic egg here. Let me start my timer. All right. What's in the news? Yesterday was Halloween, and yesterday morning I talked about the horror, which was what Kurtz said in both the Apocalypse Now and The Heart of Darkness by Conrad. The horror. So what is the horror? And then yesterday we had the horror of the terrorist attack in New York City. And so the media, of course, is going around and around the horror, just like the Apocalypse Now and the Heart of Darkness of Conrad. So let's go upstream, like in the Apocalypse Now, to visit Kurtz and find out what is the horror. The horror. And so let's fit this in with my own point of view. My own way of looking at things is a Zen view. That's why I call this Zen Live. And Zen is always a discovery, a satori, kensho, aha, eureka. I see the horror. So when we see, it's kind of like we see the operating system of something. When you see a problem, a solution to a problem, is because you see how it operates. You see the whole thing. You understand it. You're not like mystified by it. You're not caught in it. Let's put it that way. When you see the operating system of some phenomena, whether it's a machine, you can fix it then, or your life, and life has an operating system, but it's not like a machine. That's the problem. The logic of the machine does not apply to the logic of life. These are two different logics. And we get screwed up because we try to apply the logic of a machine to the logic of our life. Life is living. Life is ambiguous. The machine isn't ambiguous. Science isn't ambiguous, but life is. So we need to understand ambiguity. We need the logic of ambiguity, which we already know because it's the logic of art and movies, but not science. Not rationalism, not the clear and distinct ideas of Descartes. But anyway, so let's get into this. So I entitled this talk today, "The Anxiety Loop of Terror." The anxiety loop of terror. Now we all know what a loop is. It's a feedback loop. It's when you stick a microphone up against an amplifier, and it goes wow, 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 wow. It's self-generating. See, a feedback loop is not just a circle, it's a self-generating circle that if you don't turn it off or stop it, it will explode. That's what a nuclear bomb is. It starts a self-generating energy that can't be stopped until it explodes. So this feedback, we really need to understand what a feedback loop is, even though it's very common. When you get an argument on Facebook, it becomes a feedback loop. You get two people starting with a little disagreement, a little opinion war, and next thing you know, it gets bigger and bigger, and next thing they're defriending each other. Other people come in and join in, and it goes wah, 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 wah. You come back 2 days later, they're still going on. You can't break it up. It continues. In other words, there'll be a little feedback loop today, and that'll exhaust itself, and then the same people will pick up the feedback loop, another issue, and it'll pick up the next time. So it's like these continuing feedback loops. So we really need to understand what a feedback loop is, because they're everywhere. In your home, with your kids, anything that repeats itself, anything that accelerates to the point of anger, explosion, violence, Violence is a feedback loop. It's a self-generating. Well, the best symbol of it is the Ouroboros, the snake devouring its own tail, where this is not a head devouring a tail, it's two heads. It's a split. Okay? It's a mind that's split into two equal parts, and each tries to devour the other one in order to restore unity. You see what I mean? So when the mind or relationship, which is mind, now, all right, let me stop right there. Let's take a look at it. What is relationship? Relationship is one that is two. Okay? Relationship is a one that is two. Now, when the relationship gets split into two equal ones in a situation, then, but there must be one. So they fight in order to restore the one. But they can't, because the logic they're using means that there can only be one. So that means you've got to get rid of that one in order to restore the one. You see, but this is impossible because these two are mutually dependent. In other words, they're like, it's like this: the old woman and the young woman. I hope you can see this right off. The old woman, left eye, nose, mouth. Young woman, left side of the face, chin, ear. Right? Yin yang. What's the one? Do you restore the one by removing the old woman and just have the young woman? You can't do it, because if you do anything to the young woman, like here, if you add a mouth to the old woman, you add a necklace to the young woman. Whatever you do to the old woman, you do to the young woman. So in relationship, whatever you do to your partner, you're doing to yourself. You can't remove the partner unless you just leave the relationship. I quit. But as long as you're in the relationship, you can't restore one, which is peace, which is love, which is peace, which is wholeness. You can't restore wholeness by removing the other. So let's see if we can connect this back up to the anxiety loop of terror, because we really began this talk, I did anyway, focusing on what's new today. And what's new today is a ISIS, seems to be confirmed, ISIS terrorist attack in New York City. And so the themes, if you look at the media, there are currents, narrative currents that flow when these events happen. The same narrative events flow. And what caught my interest today was that they're talking about, what do the terrorists win? You see, well, they win if they change us. And so it's all about New York City and the resilience of New York City, and how the terrorists happened in the city just flowed on like there was no disturbance. The kids are going to school. They had their Halloween parties last night. Nothing happened, you see. In other words, the city was not disturbed. The city was not interrupted. New York City is impervious to this, you see. It can handle it, and they're not going to change us. You know, that's the narrative there. But then the other narrative is, of course, that the terrorists are coming. We got to put up the walls. We got to stop the immigration. We got to be more careful. We got to put up blockades. This should never happen again. What can we do to make sure this never happens again? What can we do to make death never happen again? That's basically what we're talking about here. The terror, the horror of death. But it's not really death, because people die all the time. Right now, right in New York City, there could be a crane could fall and kill 20 people. Anything could happen. A cement truck could lose control and kill 8 people. And of course, it would be a tragedy for the people who were killed. But the city, it would probably just be a little notice in the newspaper. People die all the time. Death happens all the time. Doesn't disturb us. Death happens. But if it's a terrorist death, so that creates a anxiety tape loop. Now, we also have to understand that each of us has an individual mind, and then if you get into a relationship, and of course everything is relationship, but I mean in relationship you have one mind that is two. A married couple, it's like they have one mind, a we that is two, you and me, you see. And so there's this constant dance of what to do when there's conflict on what to do. Who's in charge? Who do we get to do? Well, you choose. No, you choose. No, you choose. No, you choose. Somebody choose. But when a tape loop happens when you get the Ouroboros happening, creates the terror. See, terror, there is no terror out there. I mean, death happens, but we don't go through life terrorized by it. Some people do, but I mean, normally, we're all going to die. I could move and trip and hit my head on the table and die right after I do this talk. Or we could have a stroke or a heart attack. Bam. So we're always walking on the thin ice of death. I mean, that's what life is. Life and death are one. Life lives on death. Life lives on life. Life kills. I don't care what every kind of life lives on other life. That's the horror. I mean, the terror of life itself, you see. Life is death. We're dying is the moment we're born. We're death, you see. Death is always our companion. Death is always our co-pilot. But we don't, we don't shiver and shake and stay in the bed. I mean, you can die in bed. There's nowhere you can go to avoid death, you see. So that's not the terror we're talking about. The terror we're talking about here, of the tape loop, is self-swallowing. Self-swallowing, that's what this means. It means that I swallow. The tape loop of terror or anxiety starts, and it begins to go wow, 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 well, until I disappear. I am swallowing myself in a tape loop. And you can see this in a mirror. Take a mirror and put up another mirror. What happens? It goes wow, 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 wow. You see? It just the self, the one disappears. See, I must be one. You must be one. There's a sense of me as one. But what happens when that me, that sense of oneness, is threatened? Well, if it's threatened by something external, it gets stronger. That's what an opinion war is on Facebook. I'll refer to that because that's where we're all living right now. So you get an opinion war on Facebook. If you doubt my opinion, if you question my opinion, I'm going to get stronger. And the other one gets stronger. And then you go, wow, 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 wow. Bigger, 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 stronger opinions, you see. And of course that too is a feedback loop, because it will continue until one of them defriends the other one. Or whatever. But mainly it just results in name calling. You idiot. Logic fails, name calling starts, you see. But the point is that these feedback loops happen in order to prevent the terror of self-swallowing. I don't want to be swallowed by the other opinion, by this other guy. It's two tomcats. He's going to swallow me, so I'm not going to be swallowed. I'll just keep getting bigger. He can't swallow me if I get bigger. And of course he's getting bigger because he fears the same thing. So we both fear being swallowed by the other. That's a tape-back loop. We don't see that the tape-back loop, we see it as two. Him against me against him. That's two. But we don't see the relationship as one. The one is the feedback loop. When we see the operating system of the tape-back loop, of the anxiety loop of terror, the seeing of it is outside of it, and you're free from it. And it just dissolves because you're not inputting your energy into it. When you don't see the operating system of the tape-back loop, the feedback loop, when you don't see the operating system as it's operating, when you don't see it in action, with you in it, as it, you see. Remember the Pirates of the Caribbean with the two ships in the whirlpool? They're both in this tape-back loop. This battle for the one and to not be self-swallowed by the other, you see. But the Ouroboros says that you are really swallowing yourself. You are the other and the other is you. So this is why Jesus says, love your enemy. Why? Because if you love your enemy, you are seeing from outside the tape-back loop of terror. You're seeing, it's almost like you're standing on the beach looking at, or standing on the riverbank looking at a whirlpool in the river. A moment ago you were in the whirlpool, being sucked into the vortex, you see. But suddenly, Zen, Satori, aha, I'm on the shore and I see the tape-back loop while I'm in it. I see the feedback loop while I'm in it by standing on the shore at the same time that I'm standing in it. That's Satori. That's aha. Something opens up, a background awareness, a totality, an awareness that is not discriminating, that is not prejudiced, that is not cherry picking. A totality opens up and you see myself in the feedback loop, fearing self-swallowing. And the seeing, snap, I'm free from it. And then then I have a creative response instead of a reactive response of being caught in the tape loop. You see, when we're in the tape-back loop, when we're in the anxiety loop of terror, the horror, we're controlled by it. We are the operating system. We're not seeing it. We are it. We are identified with one or the other of the tape-back loop, of the relationship. And there's no choice then but to battle to the death. So let's see if we can tie this up with terrorism, because what we have, as I look at this, is the warm orders of the media, and this tape-back loop here of self-swallowing is a collective tape-back loop. So the terrorist event, that's 2 killed, 8 killed, as soon as somebody's killed, is it terrorism? Is it terrorism, you see? Oh, it was just an accident. Okay. Whew, boy, for a minute I thought it was terrorism. What is that? It's still death. I mean, still somebody dies. 2 people die, 50 people die, 20 people die. They die. People die all the time. Hurricanes, 50 people died. Nobody sees that as a terrorist act. The hurricane's not a terrorist. The tornado hits, kills 10 people. Was it a terrorist attack? No, it's just tornado. Okay. Fix that. Sorry. But if it's a terrorist attack, we have created a collective feedback loop. The death is the same, but now we've got a different story about the death, you see. So the death here, X happens immediately. Was it terrorist? Well, if it's terrorists, it's almost like, oh boy, it's terrorism. It's almost like we want it to be terrorist. It's almost like, oh, now that, because that once it's designated terrorist, like, oh, well, that this guy in New York, he left a note saying, praise be to ISIS or whatever. So what does ISIS want? Well, ISIS wants to create the loop of anxiety, of terror, by dropping a little pebble in the pond. See, we got this mass media here, this pond of the media. So ISIS drops a pebble in it. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's a little teeny pebble. One guy kills 2 people, 8 people, whatever. Doop, little teeny pebble. And immediately, once, oh, that's terrorist, this big ripple goes out. You see, this big tape-back loop, this big feedback loop goes out over the whole globe, all over the whole world, you see, creating anxiety. Oh my God, the terrorist, death is going to get us. The terrorist is going to get us, you see. Death is here. It's going to get me. I better lock my door. I live in Blackstone, but I better put up a barricade so the terrorist can't drive his truck into my driveway. I better get my gun and look out the window. You see, the anxiety loop of terror. Like that ripple in the pond, you see, just a little bitty pebble. So why does they do it? Why would you say, why are they trying to do? Well, they said on the media, well, we don't want if the terrorists change our lives, they win. So what does that mean? Well, it means you have a little cult who wants to feel power that's caught in a tape-back loop of me against the other, and it wants to eliminate the other to make itself into the one without a second. This is a religious movement. God, my God is the one without a second. I identify with that God, so I want to be one without a second. How do I be one without a second? How do I feel the power of this God? How do I feel the one without the other? Well, I have to make the other orbit around me. Okay? In other words, I have to be at the center, and I have to make the whole world orbit around me. If I drop a little pebble, if I say boo, the whole world circulates around me in a tape loop of terror. Trump operates this way. In other words, me is at the center, and how do I stay at the center? By making everyone orbit around me. In other words, I shape the world. If you put a rock in a pond, in a stream, the river flows around it. But what if the river flows around like a whirlpool, you see? But then once you put the rock in the stream and the river flows, it's only temporary, so you got to keep dropping more rocks in the stream. So the stream of life flows, and I drop a little rock in there, and for a moment, the whole river flows around me, and I feel, wow, I am powerful, damn. And so I look in the media to see, oh, look how powerful I am. They're terrified. And all I did was pull out a knife, and look at that. I got the whole world circulating around my little pebble. You see, so these people, they get radicalized, are emissaries of the one, the powerful one. So they begin to feel, even through death, you see, that feeling of power, of being the one without a second, is greater than the fear of death. So anyway, my bell has rung, so I hope this kind of like it helps me to talk about this. And so basically we're looking at the media as the warm waters, and these terrorists are kind of like little hurricanes, little tornadoes that get started, and they'll go like this for a while and then die down, and then in a couple of weeks there'll be another little pebble, and there'll be another whoa, 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 and it'll die down, you see. And they're basically collective anxiety loops that are maintained by the narrative, not the actual death. It's the story of this terror that we have created as death itself. The fear of death magnified by this mythology of the Ouroboros and the fear of being swallowed into oblivion. Anyway, let's stop and I'll see you next.